Hello and welcome to the Meeple Minded. My name is Jason and this is Fairy Ring by Repost Productions, a 2 to 4 player fantasy city building game that uses a closed drafting mechanism in a somewhat unique way. This copy was given to me by the publisher, but they have no input, and all of the views that I will be expressing are of my own opinion, and as always I actively encourage you to gain as many opinions as possible before committing to make a purchase. That being said, let's cut to the top down cam for a quick game overview, and I'll be back with you shortly to give you my final thoughts on the game. Okay guys, so here we are set up in the first round, shall we say, of the game. This is set up for a 2-player game. Obviously, the more players, there'll be more stuff around the board, but you'll get the gist of what we're doing here. Okay, so game overview of this is very simple. On each turn, the players will simultaneously play a card from their hand face down onto their player mat that's freestyle. So I'm going to choose to play this one, for example. I'm currently the first player because I have this thing here, so I'm just going to stick them there for a minute. Once everyone has placed the card and placed it face down, it will then be revealed in player order. So as the first player, I get to reveal mine. Now I have got a lookout mushroom here. Now I've got two choices with this. I can add it to either the left or the right of my current mushrooms in the village. So if I put it there, it's going to expand the length of my village. However, I can also put them on top of my already placed lookout card, which makes that more powerful should anyone land on it. So these can go up to being 4 higher, and that's the same with all of the mushrooms within the game. They can always go up to 4, but never more. The higher they are, the more powerful they are. Let's say, for example, I didn't, however, play the lookout card. I could have, of course, played a spring card. Now, this one is slightly different from the other mushrooms in the game. All the other mushrooms in the game will activate when someone lands on them. With the spring, a player has to pass over a spring card in order to gain its benefit. If someone lands on it, you get nothing. As long as they pass through it, you would gain the benefit on that one. So that is basically the one action you can do is drafting a card from your hand, placing it down and placing it into your village. Now, depending on the cards that you play down, in the top left hand corner you have movement values. So let's say, for example, I did indeed play that lookout card. Okay, I now have to move my fairy, which is this white one. Let's say it was there 4 spaces. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that I have landed on that mushroom in a player's village, which means they are going to get the benefit. And that one is nicely explained on this card here. The academy is gather mana equal to the fairy's movement. That player is going to gather 4 mana because I moved 4 spaces. Now, if I had an academy in my village, I would also be able to claim that. However, I don't, which means I'd get nothing for that movement. If, however, I had landed just here, I would have been able to claim it because we both have the same mushroom. Now, they are going to get that benefit. Okay, their benefit would be to get 1 mana per firefly. They only have 1 in their village, which means they're going to get 1 mana. I actually have 1, 2, 3 on show, and it's in my village. I've landed in there. It's in my village, which means I'm allowed to get it. I would gain 3 mana for that. And that will be the end of my turn. Play moves on to the next player. They would play a mushroom, for example. Let's say they've added that one there. It's got a movement value of 3, which means they're going to 1, 2, 3. They've landed on that one, which means, again, we both have it. We both gain it. If they landed on there, I'm going to get my new higher bonus because it's too high. I would get 8 mana for that. So there's an element here of making your village as big as possible to try and maximize the landing possibilities of every fairy within your village, or there's the possibility of building your village up so that when people do land on it, you're going to gather more points. And that's how the game is played. Each round has you are given 7 cards to draft from. You will play 6 of those cards throughout the game. Once everyone has had a go, the play moves round. The first player token moves to the next player. I would gain cards this way. And we keep going until we have 2 cards left. You play that last card, and then the last one is discarded. Then we move on to the next round. We go up to the 2 cards. They're slightly more powerful, but it's all basically works the same way. And that's how you play the game. It's very easy. Every 20 points that you get, you can cash that in for a single point on your points tracker here. And then keep this hidden because people can't see how much you're gaining. So that is how you play. Let's go back to the face cam, talk about the components and what we think of the game. So guys, that is the overview of the game. Let's have a quick breakdown now of the components that come in the game, what we do like and what we don't like, because this game has got a fair few bits in it. It's not like overproduced or anything like that, but I think considering we recently looked at the Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth, which is by the same publisher, and we were pleasantly surprised by the production of that game, and I have to admit, this is much of the same, if not better, in fact. The standout pieces for me, of course, are going to be the acrylic standees, you know, with the beautiful screen printing of the art style of fairy on it, I guess, and even the fact that the acrylic stands themselves have got the flower printed on them. That's a nice little touch, and it just sort of adds to that immersiveness in the game. You know, you have to take into account the wood mana tokens that you get in the game, the ones and the 5s. They are very, very nice. They've got that sort of nice, I don't know if you can hear that, but that nice sound to them, you know. And you think back to the Lord of the Rings game, it was all punchboard for the money. So this is a nice addition to have these. We've got the acrylic, as I said. The the points dials in this are fantastic. They're nice and snugly fitted. I've seen some in the past where they've been quite loose, and it's very easy to have the dials twisting out of where they shouldn't be. But they're nicely produced as well. The reference cards are fantastic. They very clearly state what each of the mushrooms do within the game. So component-wise, fantastic. Nice box insert as well. Keeps everything nicely in place. The fairies have got their own dedicated place. They've got the objective bits here. It's all very, very well designed. So I can't complain about that at all. You know, the art styling of it as well is really, really cool. It sort of gives me Avatar feels with how bright and vibrant it is. You know, the color palette chosen in this is absolutely fantastic. So components wise, it's a big double thumbs up from me. Okay, so gameplay pros and cons. Well, what is there? Are there any cons? That's the question. Because there's definitely a lot of pros here, and we'll talk about those first. Because amongst the things we like about this game are the fact that while the theme is, of course, of a fantastical nature, it feels very well integrated into the mechanisms used. The closed drafting used to expand your mushroom city and hopefully gain you substantial amounts of mana as all the fairies travel around the board is fantastic and very tactical. But the fact that your movement is also tied into that card choice makes for a very strategic and often difficult decision of whether or not it's worth increasing your chances of higher mana, you know, collection at the cost of moving into your opponent's village and landing on their highest scoring mushroom. Do you really want to give your opponent that amount of mana? Not really, but at the same time, if I do that, I could gain this if someone lands on that. You know, there's a lot of to-ing and throwing in your mind as to whether it's a good idea or not, and I really, really like that about the game. So yes, you could focus on your own city and you'll do just fine, or you could focus more on trying to negate your opponent's points gain, which is also fine, but the truth is you are never fully in control, because as the game progresses, the cities get bigger. It's almost, if not impossible, to avoid giving your opponent mana and therefore points. That is actually quite a cool thing as well. What we really, really like is the hidden point styles is that, yes, they're out on full display, but you can place them face down. And the only time you need to really be looking at these is when you're cashing in your 20 points. Now, sure enough, someone who's got a good memory might see a little Jimmy over there is always just cashed in 20 mana. That's the third time he's done that. That's 3 points. And, you know, in a 4-player game, you might be able to keep track of all that. But the average amongst us won't be able to keep track of that, as well as focusing on what they're doing on their board, what people are doing on their boards. You know, there's a lot going on. So it's almost impossible to remember how many points people have got. So you do not know who is going to win until that end of that second round, which I'm going to talk about, because 2 rounds to me is the perfect length for a game like this. Much longer is too much of a time investment on a game night. Much shorter, and you'll never have enough time to do enough to feel like you've achieved anything, which means 2 rounds is just right. Okay, so you've got 2 rounds of drafting, you're playing 6 cards per round, 12 cards in total. Boom, that's it. That's all you're ever going to play in this game. It's the perfect length. It's not too long, it's not too short, it's just right. The truth is, we found it incredibly hard to find any fault with this game, and I guess that's a great thing. I truly believe that this is a very underrated game, and I don't understand why people aren't talking about it. The only thing I can think of is the theme. So my advice here is ignore the theme, forget the theme, just enjoy those mechanisms and have a great time. As it is, the theme actually works quite well with the game. Could you have another theme with it? Sure you could. Would it sell as well? Probably would sell better if it had a more relatable theme to your average gamers. However, this comes in at an 8+, and I know that my son will be able to play this game. I know that there's a lot of kids that will enjoy playing this game. I know my partner enjoys playing this game. So gameplay-wise, mixed in with that theme, it's a big, again, thumbs up, double thumbs up from me. Okay, guys, so let's summarize this game. In summary, this was a very surprising game for me. And while we were chatting with the publisher at Spiel and hearing about the game for the very first time, I must admit, when I first saw it, I wasn't invested. I wasn't that fussed about it. I saw the theme. I'm not really that bothered about, you know, fairies. I'm not that super invested in mushroom games. You know, they're 10 a penny at the moment. But then they started explaining the game, and I must admit, I was hooked almost instantly. I could not wait to get my hands on the game and play it for myself. The game is thoroughly enjoyable, and everyone I have introduced this game to has said that they would welcome another play, and some even interested in playing immediately after finishing the first game. That's impressive. You know, a lot of the people I play games with and introduced games with, they'll enjoy a game, but then they're about, let's play something else. To ask to play it straight away is definitely a sign to me. The replay value is also pretty good in the game, and adding in the objective cards, the public objective cards, only adds to that replay value, right? So far, I've not really incorporated that into many of our games, but I know I definitely will in the future to just sort of spice up the game for me just a little bit. But having them in there is a really, really good addition to the game. And I will be honest, I have to really think about this now, because this game is now a solid addition to my collection, taking a prideful place in the welcoming and gateway game category, as the rules are just so good and so well written and easy to understand that I feel the game could be, and indeed should be, used to introduce new players to our world. I'm not really sure what else to say about Fairy King. I'm genuinely lost for words over how good Fairy King actually is. So I'm interested to know your opinions on that, guys. So remember, don't forget, comment your thoughts and opinions. I would always like to hear them. Like the video, subscribe, share the video as much as you possibly can. But that is Fairy King, Repost Productions. I have been Jason, you have been watching The Meeple Minded, and I will see you on the next one.